The desert stretched, parched, and unforgiving. A famine more severe than anything Abraham had faced now loomed. Isaac, the son of promise, stood at a crossroads. Would he run from fear, or would he hold fast to the God who had called his father and now called him? Welcome to Bible Tales, Adventure. Today we continue the journey through Genesis 26, a chapter where God's covenant with Abraham is tested in the life of his son Isaac. Now there was a famine in the land, harsher than the one in Abraham's time. Hunger gripped the land, the skies held back rain, the earth cracked beneath tired feet. So Isaac set out for Gerar, perhaps with Egypt in mind. But before he could go further, God met him with a word that would change everything.
Do not go down to Egypt. Dwell in the land of which I shall tell you. Sojourn in this land, and I will be with you and will bless you.
In this moment, something profound happens. God reaffirms the covenant, not just privately, but publicly, to Isaac himself. The same promise given to Abraham is now personally extended to Isaac. It's not just a passing inheritance, it's a living mission. A mission of land, offspring, and a blessing for all nations.
I will multiply your offspring as the stars of heaven, and will give to your offspring all these lands. And in your offspring all the nations of the earth shall be blessed, because Abraham obeyed my voice and kept my charge, my commandments, my statutes, and my laws.
This is the ongoing covenant. God's promise didn't end with Abraham. It now lives in Isaac. The God of Abraham is now the God of Isaac. Even in famine, Isaac is called to stay, because obedience in God's chosen place brings blessing. The promise is tied to the land. Isaac must trust God's presence more than Egypt's provision. Isaac obeyed and settled in Gerar. But obedience doesn't silence every fear, especially in unfamiliar lands. Isaac could feel the tension in every glance. The men of the city were watching, and Rebekah's beauty wasn't going unnoticed. Concerned for his safety, Isaac chose words he hoped would protect him.
She's my sister.
Fear, not faith, shaped his answer. Like his father before him, Isaac faltered under pressure, forgetting that God's promises still held in foreign soil. Generational sins echo, patterns of fear, self-preservation, and dishonesty. Faith doesn't come all at once, and even the faithful stumble. But lies, no matter how carefully spoken, don't remain hidden forever. One day, as King Abimelech looked out from his window, he saw something that made the truth unmistakable. Isaac was laughing with Rebekah, not the laugh of siblings, but something more tender, more intimate. It was clear. This was no sister.
She is your wife. How then could you say, she is my sister? One of the people might easily have lain with your wife, and you would have brought guilt upon us.
A pagan king confronts the heir of God's promise. Just as his father Abraham had once stumbled, Isaac too is exposed. And once again, God uses those outside the covenant to protect its integrity. Even the faithful falter. But God's covenant stands, not because of human perfection, but because of divine providence. He guards his promises, even when his people fall short.
Whoever touches this man or his wife shall surely be put to death.
Despite Isaac's missteps, God's blessing remained. In the very place where he feared for his life, Isaac began to thrive. In a time of famine, Isaac sowed and reaped 100-fold. The Lord was with him, and he became very wealthy, with flocks, herds, and servants, multiplying beyond measure. But prosperity stirs envy. The same neighbors who once welcomed him now began to resent him. And Abimelech, seeing how Isaac had become mightier than they, made a demand he couldn't ignore.
Go away from us, for you are much mightier than we.
When God's people prosper in obedience, the world often reacts with envy and exclusion. But this is also a test. Will Isaac strive for peace or fight for position? Isaac walks away from Gerar, unarmed, unbitter. Not because he is weak, but because he trusts the God who promised to bless him. Driven out by men, he clings to the covenant, and so he returns to the land his father once walked. To reopen the wells his father once dug, to reclaim not just water, but worship, witness, and the inheritance of faith. Isaac names the first well Esek, contention, for the herdsmen of Gerar quarreled with him.
This water is ours.
He digs again. They strive again. So he names it Sitnah, opposition. Still, Isaac moves on, undaunted. Finally, they dig once more, and there is no dispute. So he calls it Rehoboth, broad place.
For now, the Lord has made room for us, and we shall be fruitful in the land.
Isaac's journey through conflict and contention is not aimless. It's covenant-guided. Every shovel of dirt is a quiet declaration. God gave us this land. His patient faith mirrors the kingdom way, peaceful persistence grounded in divine promise. Isaac's peaceful perseverance points us forward to the greater Son who also refused to fight for what was already his. Jesus, too, was driven out, misunderstood, opposed. Yet he didn't quarrel over water. He offered living water. At a well in Samaria, generations later, he sat with a broken woman and said, "Whoever drinks of the water that I will give him will never be thirsty again." John 4:14. Where Isaac reopened old wells, Jesus opened eternal ones, springing up to everlasting life. After all the detours, disputes, and digging, Isaac arrives at Beersheba, and there God meets him.
I am the God of Abraham your father. Fear not, for I am with you and will bless you and multiply your offspring for my servant Abraham's sake.
In response, Isaac does what his father had done. He worships. He builds an altar, pitches his tent, and digs a well. Worship, abiding, provision. This is what covenant life looks like. Days later, Abimelech returns, not in conflict but seeking peace. The same king who drove Isaac away now comes with a proposal.
Why have you come to me, seeing that you hated me and sent me away?
We plainly see that the Lord has been with you. Let there now be an oath between us, a covenant of peace. You are now the blessed of the Lord.
Isaac prepares a feast. They eat, drink, and seal the covenant. The next morning, peace is made, and at that very hour his servants bring news of another well found. He names the well Sheba, oath. And so the place becomes Beersheba, well of the oath, a name still known today. Isaac's quiet integrity turned enemies into allies. His faithfulness made space for witness. His life reflected what trust in God looks like, calm strength, not conflict. Jesus said, "Blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called sons of God." Matthew 5:9. In Isaac, we see a shadow of the Prince of Peace, who reconciles not just men, but the world to God. But not all is well at home. Esau, at 40, takes 2 Hittite wives, women outside the covenant line, and they make life bitter for Isaac and Rebekah. God's covenant requires more than just bloodline. It demands spiritual discernment. Esau's choices reveal not just poor judgment, but a heart blind to the promises of God. In famine, in failure, in conflict, in peace, God's promise endured. Not because Isaac was perfect, but because God is faithful. Are you trusting Him in your famine? Are you redigging the wells of faith in a world that resists? Let Isaac's journey remind us to stay where God calls, dig where others have stopped, where faith once flowed, but fear took over. Worship where He speaks. Trust Jesus, the living water, who said, "Whoever drinks of the water that I will give him will never be thirsty again. The water that I will give him will become in him a spring of water welling up to eternal life." John 4:14. Thanks for watching Bible Tales Adventures. If Genesis 26 stirred your faith, like, share, and subscribe for more scripture-rich stories. Live for Christ's eternal kingdom. Isaac didn't build a city. He built an altar because God had spoken. He pitched a tent because he journeyed by faith. He dug a well because life flows where God plants his promise. Gratitude, obedience, fruitfulness. This is life under the covenant. Like Isaac, dig where others stopped, worship where God speaks, and walk forward, trusting Jesus who keeps his word.